everybody, welcome to my channel From Small Things. I'm Sue and I live in Southeast Pennsylvania and I'm a scrap quilter. Today's episode is a bonus episode, and today this is not about my work at all. I have a special guest in my sewing room today. This is CJ and he is my son-in-law. And so he is going to learn how to make a quilt from scratch. He's never done any of this before, nothing at all like this. So I'm going to be showing him, starting off like with the very, very basic things. And we are going to be super successful and have a quilt at the end of all of this, right?
Of course.
Yes.
A whole quilt. Not big?
No, as big as you want. He's a school teacher, so he has off in the summer, and every summer he tries to fill his time with something meaningful so that he feels like he has something to show for the summer instead of just lounging. So this year it's quilt making. So I'm going to start off with the very basics with him by showing him how to work my sewing machine. I'm going to send my backup sewing machine home with him so that he can try it out and get the feel of it before he cuts into his precious fabric. And he does have fabric of his own. When we went to the quilt show in, when was it? In May? April, May. And we bought a lot of fabric there. I bought some, Pam bought some, and CJ was with us, and he bought some of his own too. So he picked out the colors and the prints and everything that he liked there, and so he's ready to go. So we just have to get him started one baby step at a time. So we're going to start with the basics of a sewing machine. So if you've never sewn before, or if you know somebody who might be interested in learning the very basics from step one, join us and I'll walk him through it and I'll walk you through it too. Okay, this is the machine that he's going to be using. He'll be working on this. It's a Janome, and it says 4300 QDC. It's not a high-end model, but it gets the job done. I've sewed on this for years. And so I'm just going to walk him through the basic features of this machine first of all. Okay, first things first. You've got your foot pedal here, and this is, of course, where you're going to feed your fabric in. But a couple of the features that this machine has is this arrow here is for your needle up and down, and this is for your presser foot here. Sometimes it's nice to have your needle end down all the time. It doesn't come up then automatically. You can just hit the button again and it'll come up like that. And then another feature it has is, let's put some fabric in here and I'll show you the next one here. There's your foot pedal. Give it some gas. Okay, you can stop. And now if you hit this button here, that just cut your thread for you. Yeah, pretty nice. It saves time. When you do like a lot of piecing and you're feeding a lot of things in, or just a lot of stopping and starting, it really is nice. Once you start to use that, it becomes like you really don't want to do without it anymore.
So how do I have it knotted at the beginning so it knotted it at the end?
It's not knotted, it just stopped sewing. And this here is not really a knot, it's just that the thread just kind of bunched up a little bit when you started. So you have those two things, and then and here's your speed control. So start sewing again and push it all the way. Okay, now you still have it pushed all the way, right? It's going much slower. Okay, okay, stop and cut your thread. And you can lift it up then. And you can give that another try to see like where you're comfortable at.
Slow.
With you. Well, slow is pretty slow. So see, this is very, very slow. So maybe you want to go more towards middle. And you don't have to push down all the way. You can control it with your foot also. But this just means you won't go any faster than whatever you have this set at. So
I can still go slow.
You can still go slow, yes. Yes. Very nice. Get used to, you lift that up. I want you to get used to the feel of where that lever is so that it becomes kind of second nature to you. And then pull that out. Now, again, too, if you want to use your scissors to cut, you can. But when you're done, I would recommend you either pull it to the back and cut behind, or pull it to the side and cut to the side. I wouldn't recommend you pull it to the front and then cut, because when you start sewing again, your threads will be in front of you and they may jam up or they may cause a nest underneath. So you just kind of want to go in the natural direction, which is from front to the back.
What's the advantage of me doing the cutting versus a machine doing the cutting?
There really isn't any. It's just a matter of preference. I use both on my machine. Sometimes I use scissors and sometimes I use the cutter. It just kind of depends. For me, it just depends what kind of piecing I'm doing at the time. Really, it's just preference. That's all it is. Okay, let's talk about threading the machine then. Let's take this out. And this machine has arrows. If you look up here, there are arrows on everything that tell you which way to go.
Okay.
So this is number 1. So you're going to wrap it around here first. And then you're going to come down in this slot here and see, then they want you to go back up on the other side. And then this, I always have to open this to get this into here. And I can't really see from my vantage, but okay, that's in. See how it's hooked in? And then I close it. And then under here, it's hard to see, but there's a little thing here you want to get behind. Again, my vantage point for this isn't that great. And then you thread your needle.
So it's behind the metal.
Yeah, if you can get it back there.
It's back there.
Okay. And then you can thread the needle, which let me give you a clean cut on that thread. And this has an automatic needle threader too. And to be honest with you, I never use them. I shouldn't say never. 99.9% of the time. I like to be able to thread a needle yet. The automatic needle threader is here. That's what this thing is.
Oh, no.
And that will thread your needle for you. And I don't ever use that.
Okay.
So the eye of the needle, what I do too is I drop this presser foot so that I can see the eye of the needle better. And this one, I believe, threads from the front to the back.
Okay.
This is different than the machine I use every day, and that machine threads from the side. So, can you see the eye in there?
It's very small.
Yes. Got it?
Yes.
Okay. That's it. That's it. And now you always have to remember to lift that back up then too. And so it's better to put this thread then between the feet here and bring it to the back.
Okay.
Okay, so that's threading the top. Okay, we'll talk about the bobbin next. I have a piece of tape on here that gives me 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. So that's why I have tape on here. So I have to peel this back, and then here's your little quick release lever here.
Okay.
And then that gives you access to your bobbin in here. And almost needs to be changed anyway.
Obvious.
Okay, so it's just a top loading bobbin, and now I have to think again because I think this is opposite from the machine I work on every day. So I think it has to go clockwise, and there's a little groove in here where your thread is going to fit in there like that. And then you pull it to the side, and then these little tabs kind of go right back in, and you press it down. And then you want to hold this thread back here, and this again is when you want to use this. So go down once and come up once to bring that thread up from the bottom. Whoops, and it didn't bring it up because it's caught. It's hard to do from sitting over here on the side. It's caught on something. Okay, and one other feature that is pretty important for quilting is your stitch length. And up here, it gives you all the information you need. This is the type of stitch, or the stitch length. This is the stitch length, and this is the stitch width. You don't have to worry about the width because we're just doing a straight stitch. So it's just straight. This is more for like if you're doing a zigzag stitch, which you won't be doing at all. And so up here, it kind of tells you you're doing the straight stitch here, and you're set at 2.4. When I sew, when I quilt, I almost always do either 2.0 or even 1.8. And here's your controls here. If you need it to be higher for some reason, just hit the plus sign. And these are corresponding to what this is. Like I said, you're not going to do anything with a zigzag or anything here. So you're basically only worried about this straight part, which is this second one here. So, and then you have the plus and you have the minus. So you can keep it at 2.0. That'll be fine. I wouldn't recommend you go any smaller as a beginner, because if you make a mistake, it's harder to rip out your stitches the smaller your stitches are. The bigger they are, the easier it is to rip them out or do some unsewing, as they say. So you can kind of sew a seam here, and the next thing I guess we're going to talk about is your 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, which in the quilting world is kind of like, it's the industry standard, and it's what you're going to focus on for your quilt all the time. And that's why I have tape on here, and that's why this piece of tape is on here too. There are a variety of ways where you can get 1/4 of an inch, and by that I mean, I don't know if you can see where these stitches are. You want to make sure this stitch line is 1/4 of an inch away from your outside edge. So you want it to be consistent at 1/4 of an inch, and it does matter. So usually I will run, I mean, I've had this machine set up for me. It might work for you, it might not. Everybody's different, and every machine is different. I usually can run mine, like kind of guide it right along here as it's sewing. And as long as you keep it going straight, you should have a consistent 1/4 of an inch seam allowance then. And so I want to talk about how I got to where this tape is. There are a couple of ways that you can get your 1/4 of an inch to be precise. This is one of them. This is called Creative Hearts, and it is a gauge ruler. It has little holes in it here, and it tells you what those holes are for. This one here at the very edge is 1/4 of an inch. So I would put this under here and use my hand here on the wheel. And I'm not sitting in the right position to do this, but you would want to bring this needle down and be able to put your needle right in that hole that's at that 1/4 of an inch. And then, so that's where you can see, that's where my tape is here. It's lining right up there. And then you're going to take your hand and gently bring your needle back up. You'll put your tape down first, right up against the edge of this. Bring your needle back up, and that should give you a 1/4 of an inch. If you don't have one of these, you can use some graph paper. Make sure your graph paper is divided into a 1/4 of an inch grid. I have some graph paper that is 5 squares to the inch, so that won't work. This is 4 squares to the inch, so this works. And I'll do the same thing, and sometimes I'll even take this foot off so I can really see that that needle is coming right down on that blue line. You want to pierce that blue line, and again, you're just going to use your hand to do that with a hand wheel. And once you pierce that line, then you can lay your tape right up against there, and that will be your 1/4 of an inch. So you can do that, or if you have a ruler, this ruler actually is really good. This is my favorite ruler for 1/4 of an inch lines because they're really, really clear. So you could do it with a ruler too, and bring that needle right down on that 1/4 of an inch line. Again, be very careful, you don't want to break your needle. Just to be able to set this tape where your 1/4 of an inch is going to go. Right on the line.
Looks like it's right on the line, so.
Okay. That's your 1/4 of an inch then. So you can do that because chances are when you need to change your bobbin and remove this, you might not always get this put back in exactly the right spot. So you want to have a couple of different options to get your good 1/4 of an inch again. And the last one is this tape here that I have here. This is actually 1/4 of an inch tape, and it comes in these little rolls here. And again, I take this foot off so I can see this needle exactly, and what I'll do is I'll run this right up under there, and I'll drop that needle in right on that red line, and then I'll cut the tape, like once I have it, you know, and I'll put this up here. You don't have to put this up here if you have this, by the way. It's whatever you're comfortable with. I'll leave this here for you because it gives you just enough of a little ledge to keep you feeding it in consistently there. So I do want to make a little cut in here so that I can still access my bobbin area then. You can see I chose not to continue this all the way up here. It depends what kind of sewing, again, I'm doing, how precise I need to be. But I might extend this up, but you have to stop like right here because now your feed dogs are in here, and this is where all the sewing happens. So you can't have any tape up in this area at all. So that's your 1/4 of an inch. Now, let's give it a try. Here's some fabric here. The other thing with this machine too, is that sometimes it has a throat plate on that's designed for a zigzag stitch. So the hole where the needle goes is kind of horizontal. My machine that I use has no zigzag stitch or anything. It only goes up and down. So the hole that I have is just a tiny little hole like one of these. So my fabric feeds through nicely. This machine though, there is a possibility that this will eat your fabric. So give it some gas and sit. Now hold on to this too and see if you can feed that through. Here's your foot here.
How's my feeding technique?
Good. You don't want to push it, you just want to rest on it. You're guiding it, you're letting the machine pull it through. You're much more likely to be successful if you let the machine pull it through, but you also don't want it to kind of go wobbly on you, so you're kind of controlling that it's just still going straight. It's a light hand that you need. That's it. Yes, you can cut it. Yes, very good. Okay. You lift your foot, lift your presser foot. Okay. Okay, so that's one patch. Now, to make things easier and to not always, you know, sew a patch and then cut, we do a thing called chain piecing, which is basically you don't need to cut after you've sewn something through. So sew this one through. Remember to drop your presser foot. You want to put your fabric underneath it a little bit first, a little closer to where the needle's going to start. Okay, and then sew it through. Okay, now you can stop, don't cut it, and now you're just going to sew the next piece through. And notice how I'm putting right sides together. This is the right side, so that's up. Now this one here doesn't have a right or a wrong side. This was part of a men's shirt, so yeah. So you just want to make sure right sides are together, make sure your fabric is lined up nicely, and then you can just
be exact or just the best?
Oh, you have to be exact. It matters. You wouldn't think it does. Yeah, that's good. If you need to lift up your presser foot a little bit, you can. And then you just kind of keep sewing. Oh, you have to put it under a little bit more. Nudge it a little bit more. Okay, you should be good. Once the feed dogs get it, it'll grab it.
The feed dogs?
The feed dogs, yeah. They're the part that grabs the fabric and pulls it through. And that is chain piecing. It's basically feeding one set right after the other, through. And now you can cut it. Lift your foot. Okay. There you go. And then you'll have a long string of these and they'll all be perfect. And that's chain piecing. Okay, we're going to wind some bobbins now. So these are the bobbins that this machine takes. It has tiny little holes in. Can you see?
Mm-hmm.
You want to thread this through one of the holes and bring it up like that.
Okay.
And then you're going to set it on this post here. Let's see. This part here goes around this screw.
Okay.
It goes right in there.
Uh-huh.
And now it's coming up over here into that hole, and then you want to push this over here. And you see how your screen changed?
Uh-huh.
That means you're ready to wind. Now when you wind a bobbin, you want to push your speed all the way up.
Okay.
And you want to give it gas and let it go. And then you can cut this. Sometimes I kind of control this a little bit. If it doesn't seem to be going all the way down to the bottom, I might just tap it once in a while just to make sure it's filling evenly. It's pretty good.
It's good.
No, you have to fill it. Keep
Oh,
going.
I thought you said it was pretty good.
Oh. Yeah, okay.
But you're also forgetting, I don't know what a bobbin is.
Oh, okay.
Or what it's for.
Oh, okay. Just keep going. It'll stop by itself when it's full. Okay. See, now it doesn't want to spin anymore. So now you push it back over that way and you have your normal screen back. Now because you didn't turn the machine off, it goes back to your 2.0, so you don't have to set that every time.
Oh, good.
And your bobbin, by the way, is your bottom thread. It is your top thread here, and this is your bottom thread, and that's what creates a locking stitch in here. You've got a thread on one side and a thread on the other.
Okay.
Where when you hand stitch, you only have one thread and you're just going up and down. Like you've seen Pam do hand sewing, hand quilting. That's just one thread. So those are not locked in there. These actually lock as you sew. So your bobbin is your bottom thread. So now let's see, can you rethread that?
Two.
Yep.
Three.
You might have to open that to make sure that's actually locked in there. Okay. Now you have to thread a needle again. Sorry.
That's okay, but the 5 part is the...
Yeah, there's just a little place in the back that it has to be hooked through. Okay, you got it. So we got the basics down of how to work the machine. So I'm going to send him home with a little homework assignment. I want him to wind all the bobbins that are in this case here. And I'm going to send him home with some squares to sew together and see if he's got his 1/4 inch seam right. So we'll check back in next week, see how you did. Okay, and after that we'll teach you how to make a 4 patch and how to spin your seams.
And then make my quilt.
And then make your quilt. I promise you'll get to cut your fabric and make a quilt. First things first though. Okay everybody, thanks for joining us on this special episode. I'll catch you next time. Bye.